His name alone was enough to make the most seasoned employees tremble. He was the billionaire whose every whim was law, whose vast mansion sparkled with opulence. From the chandeliers that dripped with crystals to the floors polished to a mirror shine. But no amount of gold or marble could hide the storm that raged within him. He was infamous for his explosive temper, his cutting words, and a rigid set of rules that demanded absolute perfection. The staff knew all too well that even the slightest mistake could unleash his fury. Many had come and gone, their spirits broken by the constant fear. Rumors of his anger were legendary. They said he once fired a chef because his soup was a single degree too cold. Another story told of a gardener who was dismissed for a single weed found in the sprawling estate. His reputation as the city's most feared billionaire was well earned. Even business partners and supposed friends tiptoed around him, carefully choosing their words. On one particularly rainy Monday, the mansion was eerily quiet. The staff moved like ghosts, their whispers barely audible. The billionaire strode into the grand hall, his face a thundercloud over a delayed business deal. Every footstep echoed like a drumbeat of impending doom, sending a shiver through the air. His sharp eyes scanned the room, hunting for any imperfection. And then he saw it. A single chair, slightly out of place. His jaw tightened. The head butler froze. The cleaning staff held their breath. His voice, when it came, was dangerously low. "How many times," he began, "must I repeat myself? Everything in this house must be perfect." The words were like daggers. The butler tried to offer an explanation, but it was like throwing gasoline on a fire. The billionaire's voice rose, quickly escalating into a thunderous roar that seemed to shake the very foundations of the mansion. The furniture trembled. No one dared to speak, to move, to even breathe too loudly. They had all learned the hard way. His anger was a force of nature, an unstoppable hurricane, and the only way to survive was to stay out of its path. Despite the fear, the mansion ran like a well-oiled machine. The staff became experts at anticipating his moods, a finely tuned orchestra conducted by terror. Every day was a tightrope walk, balancing their duties with the desperate hope of avoiding his wrath. But even with all his fury, there was an undeniable magnetism about him. A sharp intelligence burned in his eyes, a commanding presence that demanded respect, even if it was born from fear. He didn't just control a business empire, he controlled the very energy of any room he entered. Then, a new rumor began to ripple through the staff. 2 new maids were arriving. Twins, young, small, and reportedly clever. Most of the staff scoffed. "No one can handle him," they whispered. Why would he hire a pair of kids? They imagined the girls crumbling under his first fiery glare. But they didn't know these twins. They possessed a courage that couldn't be measured by age or size. They had a plan, a secret strategy that no one could have guessed. As the twins approached the massive iron gates of the estate, the billionaire sat in his office, completely unaware that a new kind of storm was about to enter his life. His reign as the unstoppable fury was about to face its greatest challenge. The mansion held its breath. The staff watched with a mix of hope and dread, and the stage was set for a battle of wits and wills. The story of the furious billionaire was about to take a turn no one saw coming. As the morning sun spilled gold across the sprawling gardens, a pair of twins arrived at the magnificent mansion. Their small figures, carrying modest bags, seemed almost lost against the massive gates. But there was something about them that made you look twice a quiet confidence in their steps, a spark of cleverness in their eyes. The head butler, a man who'd seen countless employees come and go, raised an eyebrow. "Let's see if they survive the first hour," he muttered. Inside, the billionaire owner was already at his desk, his mind sharp but his temper simmering like a volcano. He barely noticed the twins at first, expecting them to be timid and fearful like all the others. But when he finally glanced up, he saw something unusual. There was no fear in their eyes, only a quiet alertness he rarely encountered. "Who are they?" Kay barked, his voice slicing through the silent hall. The butler explained, "Sir, they are the new Maid twins, Lena and Layla." The billionaire snorted, a mix of amusement and skepticism on his face. "Twins, two small children. Do you expect them to handle this house?" He waved a hand at the grand hall. "They won't last a day." Undeterred, the twins curtsied politely. "We are Lena and Leela, sir, and we will do our best," they said in unison, their voices soft but firm. The billionaire, intrigued, decided to test them immediately. He pointed to a pile of delicate silverware. "Polish this table before I return, and don't make a single mistake." The twins simply nodded and got to work. Their teamwork was seamless. Lena handled the silver while Leela dusted the crystal, moving with careful, practiced precision. Within minutes, the table sparkled, the silver gleamed, and the vases looked flawless. The billionaire, silently impressed, decided to push them further. He walked around, testing their patience, tossing a napkin carelessly, moving a chair slightly off-center, and even accidentally knocking a glass to the floor. He expected them to flinch, to panic. But Lena quickly straightened the napkin. Leela reset the chair, and the fallen glass was picked up without a word. Their calmness was almost magical. The rest of the staff watched in awe, whispering among themselves, "How are they not scared?" For the first time, the billionaire's infamous anger was met not with fear, but with serene determination. By afternoon, the twins had completed every task flawlessly. They anticipated his moods, understood his habits, and even predicted the little things he would notice. When he returned to inspect their work, he found everything perfect. The house gleamed. He frowned, confused by the strange feeling building inside him. Normally, he would be irritated, but these twins had worked without a hint of fear or error. They bowed slightly and said, "We are here to help, sir, in any way you need." Their sincerity was undeniable. As the day ended, the billionaire retired to his office, his thoughts consumed by the twins. He realized they might just be the ones to challenge the storm inside him, not with anger, but with patience, cleverness, and teamwork. The mansion, once filled with tension, now felt lighter, almost hopeful. And little did he know, this was only the beginning. The twins had only scratched the surface of what they could do, and this house was about to witness two small girls turn the impossible into reality. The next morning, the mansion was alive with a sense of anticipation. But it wasn't coming from the staff. It was from the twins themselves. Lena and Leela had already learned the routines, the quirks, and even the moods of the billionaire. But today, they knew, would be different. Today, he would test them, and they had to prove they were more than just careful workers. They had to show courage, intelligence, and teamwork. The billionaire entered the grand hall, his eyes sharp and alert. He had watched the twins yesterday and was curious, but curiosity in him was always paired with suspicion. "I hope you are ready," he said, his voice calm but edged with danger. "Today, I will see if you can truly handle the challenges of this house." Without warning, he began moving furniture, deliberately knocking over small items and changing the order of things the twins had carefully arranged. It was a subtle chaos designed to test their patience. The twins didn't flinch. Lena glanced at Layla, and without a single word, they began restoring order. They weren't just fixing the minor messes. They were doing it in a way that seemed effortless. They anticipated his moves, predicting which items he would touch next, and quietly adjusting before a disaster could even occur. The billionaire, walking around them, raised an eyebrow, intrigued. His anger hadn't flared yet, but a quiet test was definitely beginning. He decided to make it harder. He sent a tray of fragile glasses tumbling onto the floor, expecting panic. But the twins handled it with grace. Layla caught some glasses before they fell, while Lena steadied the tray and quickly cleaned up the rest. They even arranged the fallen items in perfect order, as if nothing had happened. The billionaire paused, watching them, a strange emotion stirring inside him. Was it pride, amusement, or perhaps disbelief? No one had ever reacted to his tests with such calmness and skill. This was new, and it challenged everything he believed about the people around him. Next, he decided to test their minds, not just their hands. He brought a stack of important papers and scattered them across the hall. "Organize these exactly how I like them," he commanded, his tone sharp, knowing it was impossible without guidance. Most staff would have panicked, but Lena and Lila calmly examined the papers. They noticed patterns and hints in his past arrangements and quickly began sorting. When the billionaire returned to inspect, every single paper was exactly where it belonged. His eyes widened slightly, and a faint smile tugged at the corner of his lips. But he wasn't finished. He introduced another challenge. A guest was arriving unexpectedly, and the mansion had to be spotless within minutes. The twins split the tasks perfectly. Lila directed the other staff while Lena handled the delicate decorations. They moved like a team that had worked together for years. Each action was precise, calculated, and yet gentle. The mansion transformed, shining as if it had never been touched by chaos. The billionaire watched silently, almost speechless. Every challenge he threw was met not with fear, but with intelligence, patience, and courage. The twins were proving that they were not ordinary employees. They were something extraordinary, something he had never seen in all his years. The staff whispered among themselves, unable to hide their amazement. "They are not scared of him," one said. "They are changing him," another replied. By evening, the billionaire called them into his office. He was still cautious, yet a little curious. "You handled everything today with skill," he admitted, his voice unusually soft. "Most would have failed, but you didn't even flinch." Lena and Leela looked at him calmly, their expressions serious but confident. "We only did what needed to be done, sir," Lena said. And in that simple sentence, he sensed truth and courage. For the first time, he felt a strange respect forming for the twins. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but it was their flicker of trust and admiration that no one had ever seen in him before. The mansion, which had once trembled under his fury, now seemed lighter, almost peaceful. The twins had survived his tests, but more than that, they had begun to tame the storm of anger that had ruled the house for years. And as the billionaire retired for the night, he thought to himself, perhaps these twins weren't just here to work. Perhaps they were here to change everything, to show him that anger could be met with courage, that fear could be met with intelligence. The stage was now set for even greater challenges, and the twins were ready to face them, together. That morning, the mansion was strangely silent, as if it held its breath, knowing today would be different. The billionaire sat in his office, his mind restless. The previous day had left him baffled. The twins, small, clever, and seemingly harmless, had flawlessly handled every challenge he'd thrown their way. For the first time in years, he felt a strange mix of curiosity and caution. Today, he decided he would push them even further, testing not just their skills, but their emotional limits. He summoned them to the grand hall, his presence commanding immediate attention. "I have a special task for you," he announced, his voice calm but laced with an edge that made the staff take a step back. "A very important guest will arrive in an hour. I want the mansion to be perfect. Every detail must be flawless." He paused, watching them closely, expecting to see fear or hesitation. Instead, he saw only quiet determination. Lena and Leela exchanged a quick glance, a silent plan forming between them. They knew this was more than just cleaning. It was a test of their teamwork, intelligence, and patience. They sprang into action, directing the staff with a gentle authority. They arranged furniture, polished surfaces, and decorated the hall with an effortless elegance. Every move was precise, yet they carried a quiet urgency, fully aware that a single mistake could ignite the billionaire's infamous anger. As the minutes ticked by, he decided to turn up the pressure. He deliberately created small obstacles, moving a vase, scattering papers, even spilling water on the freshly polished floor. He wanted to see them crack. Most employees would have panicked, but the twins handled each disruption with astonishing grace. Lena swiftly wiped the water, Leela rearranged the papers, and together they restored order before he could even register their speed. Their calmness was almost magical, a stark contrast to the usual tension that filled the mansion. When the guest, a prominent business partner, arrived, the hall was a vision of perfection. The lighting was soft, the silverware gleamed, and the floral arrangements were exquisite. Even the billionaire had to silently admit they had exceeded his expectations. His guest praised the mansion's elegance, and for once, the billionaire, who usually took all the credit, found himself quietly impressed. But the real test was still to come. Later that afternoon, an emergency erupted: a small fire in the kitchen, likely from a forgotten stove. Panic swept through the staff, but the twins remained unshaken. Lena grabbed a fire extinguisher while Leela calmly directed everyone to evacuate safely. Working together seamlessly, they extinguished the flames before any serious damage was done. The billionaire, who had rushed to the scene, stood frozen for a moment, watching in disbelief. These two small girls had just prevented a disaster that could have destroyed his home. For the first time, he felt a flicker of respect and something more, a rare appreciation for their courage and intelligence. His own legendary anger seemed to shrink in the presence of their bravery. He realized he hadn't just been testing their ability to work. He'd been testing if they could withstand his fury and still act with wisdom. And they had passed every test, not with fear, but with strategy and teamwork. By evening, the mansion was calm again, but the atmosphere had fundamentally changed. The once unapproachable billionaire started seeing the twins not as employees, but as equals in intellect. He even found himself asking for their opinions on small matters, secretly valuing their insight. That night, alone in his office, the billionaire reflected on the day's events. He replayed every test, every obstacle, and every moment the twins had surprised him. He realized that for the first time in years, he had met people who could challenge him not with force, but with quiet intelligence. The mansion, once a fortress of fear, now felt alive with possibility. The twins had become more than just his staff. They were the ones who might finally tame his unstoppable fury. And deep down, he knew this was only the beginning. The mansion was quiet as the evening sun cast golden shadows across the grand halls. But inside, the tension was electric. The billionaire sat at his desk, papers scattered around, his mind restless. Today would be the ultimate test, not for the twins, but for himself. He had watched Lena and Leela for days, testing their patience, intelligence, and courage. And each time, they had passed with calm precision. Yet part of him still wondered, could they handle his full fury if it ever erupted? Could they manage the impossible? A sudden problem arose. A delivery of rare, fragile antiques arrived unexpectedly, each piece more delicate than the last. The staff froze, unsure of what to do. The billionaire's brow furrowed, already imagining the disaster that might unfold. But the twins, without hesitation, stepped forward. Lena coordinated the placement of the heaviest items while Leela carefully handled the most fragile. Their teamwork was flawless, their movements almost dance-like, anticipating each other's actions. Nothing was dropped or damaged. As the last item was safely placed, the billionaire finally spoke, his voice low and controlled, yet edged with his usual intensity. "You've handled everything perfectly so far," he said. "But now, I want to see if you can manage me, the real test." The staff gasped, whispering nervously, knowing full well what he meant. For the first time, Lena and Leela faced the full force of his presence, his eyes sharp and piercing, his aura commanding. Instead of fear, the twins stood tall, exchanging a silent glance and a nod. They had anticipated this moment. They knew that handling him required more than quick thinking, required understanding, empathy, and courage. Lena stepped forward first, speaking gently but confidently. "Sir, we understand your rules, your ways, and your expectations. We are not here to oppose you, but to help you and your home." Leela added, "We know you have a strong temper, but we also see your care, your dedication. Let us help you channel it without chaos." The billionaire stared at them, momentarily speechless. This was unlike any employee he had ever met. No one had ever spoken to him so calmly, so respectfully, and yet so directly. It was as if they had looked into his mind and seen not just his anger, but his fears, his desires, and his potential. His fists loosened, and a tension he didn't realize he had been holding began to ease. Then came the final challenge, a broken chandelier in the main hall, delicate and dangerous. It had cracked slightly during the day, and even the thought of repairing it made the staff nervous. But Lena and Leela moved forward. Leela climbed carefully with steady hands, while Lena supported and guided, giving precise instructions. They worked in perfect synchronization, fixing the chandelier without a single scratch. The billionaire watched, amazed, feeling something he hadn't felt in years: trust. When the chandelier was finally secure, the twins turned to him, smiling softly. "It's done, sir," they said. Their words were simple, but their confidence radiated. And in that moment, the billionaire realized something profound. These small, clever girls had done what no one else could handle him, calmed his fury, and earned his respect without fear or argument. A slow smile appeared on his face, rare and genuine. He leaned back in his chair, finally relaxed, and spoke words he hadn't said to anyone before. "You have done the impossible," he said, his voice filled with admiration. "You are not just capable, you are extraordinary." The mansion seemed to breathe a sigh of relief, the air lighter, the tension gone. The staff, watching from the sidelines, felt a sense of wonder, knowing they had witnessed something remarkable. From that day forward, the mansion was no longer a place of fear. It was a place of respect, teamwork, and understanding. The billionaire's anger still existed, but it no longer ruled him. He had learned to trust, to delegate, and to appreciate the cleverness and courage of the smallest among them. And the twins. They continued their work with grace, knowing they had not only transformed the mansion, but the man who had once been unstoppable in his fury. The impossible had been achieved, not with force, but with intelligence, courage, and heart. Lena and Leela had shown that even the fiercest anger could be managed with patience and wisdom. And the billionaire finally understood that strength was only in power or wealth, it was in the people who dared to stand strong and clever. And in the halls of the grand mansion, for the first time in years, there was peace, there was respect. And there was a lesson that would never be forgotten. Sometimes, the smallest, most underestimated individuals could do the impossible.